Hello, this is Customized Curriculum. I'm Kristen, Miss G, my students call me. This is my partner, Miss Allie, and we have a small education consulting company where we tutor kids and we consult parents with their custom curriculum questions or any issues that are happening this week. So we wanted to go live this week. We're going live every other Friday and then posting a blog and a newsletter the Fridays in between. So once a week, we're doing a public free outreach of the current events that we're seeing right now that's happening with our kids as we're helping them through this education process. And we have all sorts of different students. Some of them are homeschooled, some of them go to public school, some of them go to private school. Most of us right now are in some kind of hybrid situation with the pandemic. And we are seeing that a lot of parents are really just wanting something better. And we're just seeing these questions that we're having and our kids are questioning about education. So this week we wanted to do a live on emotions and to talk about how important it is to address how kids are feeling. And that is first, and getting them in the right frame of mind and the right setting for learning before we even start with those objectives. And believe me, Allie and I are very focused and we have a very tight-shipped curriculum. I want them to learn these math concepts. I want them to learn this type of grammar. We're talking about reading comprehension, at this level. We individualize that for all of our students. But today we wanted to talk about why and how we focus on emotions and the process of emotions first. And then we want to be real. And this is like from mom to mom, because we're moms too, and we're homeschooling our kids. My kids are in a hybrid situation. And so we understand like a lot of different perspectives and all these moving parts. So I just wanted Allie to introduce herself, and then we'll jump into the topic of the day.
Hi, guys. Thanks so much for joining us. We're happy to be here and just kind of be going through this together. My name's Allie, and I'm a tutor with Customized Curriculum by Kristen, and also a college counselor and a researcher. And so I definitely keep myself busy amongst other things, but I'm homeschooling my kids full time as well. So we definitely understand what you're going through, and we just want to provide clarity and encouragement. So we're happy that you're here, and we're going to tackle some pretty big topics today, but it shouldn't take us too long. Kristen and I, we conquer, like world problems when we're not on YouTube. So no.
Yep. We are going to recap this and post it again on our YouTube channel. And so you'll get to rewatch this or share it again too. If you have any questions while this is happening, please post them. That's really helpful. We do have a question and answer section at the bottom, and it's the same if you see it again in YouTube. Please post your questions and we will follow up with that. That's what this is about, is coming together and collaborating together. And in Hawaii, which is where we live, we call it Ohana. And that's what our goal is here, is to provide a space to have family with you all and to help tackle those questions, because learning from us collectively is way better than just my perspective and Allie's perspective. Combined, we have over 40 years of teaching experience though, and we've taught in the classrooms and we've taught all over with our education degrees and higher level of education too. So any case, all right, let's move on. So what I had down right in the beginning is, why is the emotional balance the first thing? And how can you help to be sensitive to your student at that time, or if it's your own child, and to what they need first? So I had a student this week. I was walking up tutoring his sister, and then it was almost time for him to switch, and he ran to play a hide and seek game. So what though is that really telling me? Are they just in a playful spirit, or are they in a little bit of avoidance? Are they concerned, like, gosh, did I do all my homework? He's 8 years old and really gifted, quite advanced academically, but a lot of times he comes to our sessions and there's some missing assignments, but he doesn't even really know they're missing, right? So maybe he's just feeling anxious about that or worried about that. So how can we really get them grounded and settled before we start the academics? One thing that I do is just start a conversation about their day. What fun thing did they do that day? What was, and I have a smile on my face. So just to get them engaged and ask them a question and to see. And I see a big difference in this in what we do and versus a classroom. Because when I have 30 kids coming into my door, when I'm teaching, I maybe get to say hello and be polite and just, look at their facial expressions and see where they're at. But there is not a lot of time for that. The warm-up's on the board or the do now or the to do. They know the procedure and the routine. And at that point, we're teaching kids like how to compartmentalize. We're saying, okay, whatever it is that you're going through, put that aside and now get your pencil out and your paper out and we're working. And then, you have your class and you work for that time. So, when we're doing this and as moms, and what we're seeing is that if I go down to sit down and do my homework with my kid or sit down to read with them, and they don't have that emotional, I want to call it groundedness or balance. They don't have to be particularly happy and like just super elaborate, excited, but we do want them to feel safe, secure. And did you have a comment, Allie? Throw it in. What were you going to say? No? Okay. So just getting them settled and it's just to check in with the emotions first. And sometimes even with our clients, that takes a long time. And the more that we recognize and honor this, then we're finding that the more willing the child is to work extra hard, do things that they don't like doing or that they're afraid of doing or that they're critical of themselves or that they're going to even share with us. I hate this, or I fear this, and they might not even use that word, I fear it. But a lot of times I've heard, I hate this, or why do I have to learn this? Or I hear, how is this going to help my life? Or what is the point of this? So those are the kinds of questions that make them have a different type of feeling about what they're about to learn. What kinds of, Allie, what kinds of ways do you see like behaviors or hear words in students when you can identify fear or anxiety or sadness or anger? Those are the 4 heavy hitters, I think, that can shut kids down so fast. We could just take one at a time. Like, which one have you?
Yeah, I think as parents, we just have to be in tune. Yeah, I would say this week, some of the things that I've experienced with my own kids and my clients would be like body language. I think paying attention to their body language on a regular basis, like almost like when you go to the doctor, they take your blood and they create like a baseline, right? Like, okay, these are where your levels normally are. And then, once you're 35, 45, 55, they can refer back to that and say, well, this is your baseline. So now we know. And we have to be doing that with our kids. We have to create be aware enough to create this baseline of like, where are they at emotionally? So that when we come into a room and their shoulders down or their arms are crossed, there's just so much body language that goes into that, like anxiety, fear, anger. I actually was explaining to a client this week that like anger is a secondary emotion. So you're feeling something else first. So let's identify what you're feeling before you get angry, because that's what we want to help with, right? Like you're angry at this reading or at this math, but is it frustration? Or is it feeling overwhelmed? I think that a lot of our kids nowadays are definitely overstimulated by technology or whatever it may be in your lives. We're a go generation. And so I think that just identifying with your kids, like watching them and paying attention. And even, Kristen and I both in our classrooms, when we see kids coming through the door, they're not our children. And we still know exactly how they're feeling just by the way they walk into the door. Are they engaged? Are they looking up? Are they seeing people? Are they excited? Or are they just like, defeated? Are they looking down? Or are they kind of indifferent? Like, I could take this or leave it, and that's going to create a classroom culture because we all feed off of each other. And it's the same thing in our tutoring sessions or in your home. Like the way that your kids come to homeschool with you is going to have an impact on that day.
Yeah. So here's the thing that we really wanted to help you all with is how to shift them and how to help them process these. Okay, we don't want to avoid or even like necessarily redirect so much that they're not even experiencing these feelings. If they're angry and let's just take anger. I had some of this week. So let's just say that they're angry. And if I say, all right, well, let's just go do some jumping jacks and let's go outside and let's watch this funny comedy show for 10 minutes and just get our brains just thinking in a different thing. And, not even really compartmentalize it, but almost like just teach them how to switch it without letting them feel it and without letting them process it, without letting them know that I love you anyway. I love you when you're angry. I love you when you're fearful. I love you when you feel overwhelmed. And just to be able to feel the emotion, go through it, allow them to have it. And since we have this time of either, even if you're not homeschooling, Allie and I we're talking about it like we're homeschooling, but even if it's just a session where you're just sitting down and reading with your kid, but you see, okay, right now we just really need to deal with this emotional thing that we're going through. And even if you feel like it's sidetracked or that it's like a little bit distraction where you're having ADD, wait, I'm talking about feelings. I really want to be reading Harry Potter chapter 12. That was happening to us yesterday, but we needed that. So going back to allowing them to feel it and then talk about it. And one thing that just came up with Allie and I too is when we're more quiet and we let the kid, a lot of times our own kids, say what they feel and say why they feel that way, exactly what Allie just said. Okay, but what is it that made us angry? What is it that made us frustrated? Why did you feel like it was your fault? Those kinds of things, let them think about it, process it, and then come to a new open heart space. And then, a lot of times I just ask them, say, okay, are you ready to read now? I want to help you with this. Or I don't even maybe need to help them. Just I want to be there together while we read together. And then knowing in the back of my mind, my reading comprehension questions that are my objectives for my own kid. And that's probably another conversation, but also very valuable. So this is a really big issue that has come to light for me just this week because I was, I think, really good at putting a smile on my face, feeling inside overwhelmed, like, oh my gosh, I have all of these things to do and all of this work, all these assignments, half of them I don't even understand, I'm going to do them wrong, or the kids are going through that. And just saying, I don't have time to feel overwhelmed, or I don't have time to feel angry that all this pressure is either put on me or I'm putting it on myself. So this is really, really key. One of the things that, what are some of the things that you're seeing in your Zoom clients, Allie, when you're like, okay, I'm seeing avoidance or I'm seeing anxiety? How can we help our parents here start to become aware of things that look behaviorally or with their technology look like fear and anxiety or worry?
I think a lot of times, especially for preteens and teens, it comes off as defense. Like the parents, like, why aren't you listening to me? Why aren't you looking at me in the eye? Why are you not focusing? Why can't you engage with me? And they're just like internally combusting. Like they don't even know how to articulate how they're feeling. And I've been there as a teacher. I'm like talking to the student and it almost looks like they're like,
we call it in a trance. Yeah.
They're just frustrated and they're just acting out. But it's not. It's like they literally cannot process the information, the stimulus that's coming in fast enough to be able to handle the situation appropriately. And so when we're in those situations, we have to be able to like step back. Okay, this is no longer productive. And I think a lot of times, like, think of your child as just a human. Like sometimes we can categorize like, this is a child, this is an adult, this is an elderly person. And then we have all of these preconceived notions about where they should be and how they should speak to us and what they should do and how our interactions should be. And if we just really focus on like my child as a human, my spouse as a human, my friends as humans, sometimes that helps us to like be more patient with them or be more empathetic. Like if Kristen called me on the phone and she seemed frustrated and irritated, even if we had an agenda to go over, we would absolutely address the frustration first, right? Because that's how we're going to be productive. And it's the same thing with your colleagues, with your spouse. Your spouse comes home from work and is clearly frustrated. You're going to be like, oh no, you're going to be empathetic and want to address that and comfort them in that moment first. And so the challenge is sometimes the frustration is because of us, right? So the tension seems like between the parent and the child. And so we have to humble ourselves and go, okay, let's deal with these emotions first before I continue to like ramrod you through this, right? Like sometimes I visualize myself as a train and my kids are like sitting there waiting for me. Am I like zooming past them, or are they like trying to jump on and like keep up with me, or am I like stopping so they can get on and then we like go together, you know, like where am I? What does my train look like today? Am I off the tracks? Right. So I think just slowing down and really.
Yeah, sorry, Allie. That's a huge point, is for us to get centered first and then check in with them. And so in our process of, okay, I'm going to read with my kid now, that is it. Check in with yourself. How are you feeling? How's your energy level? What other crazy things have you gone through the day? And I'm going to just go over these 3 strategies that I help kids. And Allie, if any come up with you too, especially if kids that you've worked this week and with your own kids, please jump in here. But these are the 3 that I found really, really helpful. And then you guys too, please post like, these are the fears and anxieties or the anger, explosions that I've had this week too. So share those with us, because then we can, I don't know, just be on this journey together and help. But that's huge. All right. So what's my train look like? I love it. I love it, Allie. What's my train look like? And then where are the kids with me? And a lot of times too, I'm seeing it more and more now is like we're equals. I'm learning as much from them as I want, hopefully, them to learn from me. And from that perspective too, even asking them, my intention is to help you through this. And when I said that with one of my 8-year-old girl students last week, and she is a real kinetic learner. She's an athlete. I talk about her a lot. And so we're doing inverted poses all the time and taking breaks and things like that. But when I set my intention for our session beforehand, it totally shifted her dynamic. It was like in an instant switch. Like, this lady is here and we totally love each other. We have a great, great relationship to help me. And I do want to become a better student. And I do want what she's got to offer me, instead of this, teacher. And I just think of it more of like not a dictator, but a different role, Right.
Yeah, like what we were talking about, that children are down here and parents are up here. And so a lot of times we come into it with these social, preconceived notions of like what it looks like to have a hierarchy in our home. And I think if we wash away that, and not to say there isn't, because I think there naturally is, obviously, but like when we're teaching our children, if we can wash that away and just come into like a mutual space, or teaching our clients, for Kristen and I, same thing, really just try to have this respectful space before you engage in learning.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so the 3 simple techniques that anybody can do that have worked with me a lot. It's just first is breathing. And I notice if they hold their breath, or I notice if we just need to get out of fear or anxiety or anger. And so this is just put your hand on your heart, put your hand on your belly. Fill up your belly first, like a balloon. You guys all want to do it with me? Bring the air up into your chest, bring it up into your head, and then exhale. And the more I have done this with kids, even just the one time, they're laughing or smiling at the exhale. And you can just see it. You can just see the anger or frustration just turn into a smile. And then what also is really cool is that when you're in that smile, or you've shifted the feelings, is that then you can talk about it. And then you have a whole different space to say, all right, what was it that got you so mad? So this is what happened, replay it. And what was it that you really, tackled onto? And it might not be till the next day, even sometimes. So try the breathing technique. Okay. So that's one. And a lot of times it takes more than one time. All right. So be prepared for 5. I would say 5 breaths like that. We call it belly, chest, head. And it's not mine. It's a learning whole breathing yoga class that I took and all that good stuff. So definitely it's helped me, and it's helped a lot of my students. And there's lots of different breathing techniques, but anytime we can just focus on calming down a little bit, it really helps. Okay, number 2. This one is just moving location. So sometimes and this one is more like anxiety, really, not really fear or anger, but if I'm just getting a lot of fidgetiness or a lot of any of those kinds of emotions or the overwhelm, you can do a couple things. Move location. So instead of doing your schoolwork at the table or on the couch or, wherever it is that you're having your snuggle reading time, maybe go outside, take a little walk. Even if it's nighttime, it's cool to look at your stars. And the sunshine, though, is great, too. You get that vitamin D in the sun. So taking a breath of air, noticing any nature around you, listening, get your senses. Just start being aware of your body and the things that are happening right in nature, right around you. Okay, so move location. That's the first one about moving. The second part about moving, though, this is only one of the 3, but it has 2 steps. One is the moving location, and the second one is moving your body. So that if the kid will hang like a rag doll and touch their toes, or if your student will do jumping jacks. And this one is, I think, probably easier. Allie, what do you think? I think it's easier for me to ask my students to do this than my own kids.
I think it depends on their age. Like the younger they are, the more the buy-in is a little bit easier for especially like being silly and having movement. But as they get a little older, they're kind of like, Mom, really? But I completely agree. Like shaking it up, sometimes you just need to, even in the classroom, like we would do a long stint and then I'd be like, okay, everybody get up, shake it out. Like, let's just let it, we just did this big math problem. Now we're going to shake it off and retackle something else.
Yeah. Perfect. Okay. And even like Simon says too. So instead of like, let's just do some jumping jacks. Like if you say it like that, like, all right, or we do 10 jumping jacks. But if you say, especially with the younger ones, elementary school, let's play Simon Says, and then throw jumping jacks in there, throw touching your toes in there, throw taking these 5 deep breaths in there, raising your hands up above the, as tall as you can possibly be, stuff like that. So making a game out of it. Okay. And then number 3, this one has really been working really well for a lot of my families this week. And this one ties in the parents a lot. And that is your like restatement statements. So if you hear your kids say, I hate learning this, that one, I'm just like, because I'm such an educator, I'm like Athena, I just believe in knowledge so much. And I just want them to have the power of choice. And with their power of choice to have anything that they want in their life, I believe knowledge is the key. And so that you have information and you can make the choices that you want. So when I hear that from a kid, I ask myself, what is it that they hate? Because that is not a natural thing. Kids, when they're born, they want to learn. They want to learn how to eat. They want to learn how to walk. They want to learn how to talk. And even though it takes them years to learn these things, they are still resilient. It goes back to our book that we had on for our book choice for the past couple of months too. So when I hear, and I will like say this as a parent, I'm like, okay, let's keep a journal. Let's keep a social emotional log. And for this week, when you hear statements or you have something that happened in your day, like a real episode that you're like, all right, that wasn't good. How can we rethink that in the nighttime or in our quiet time with our kids, or even in the car? Like, remember that time, last week when this happened, and how can we have done that better? Or were you really thinking this? Then going back though to your journal and your social emotional little log, writing down their exact quote. Okay, that's really important because you want your kid to feel like they're really heard. All right. And even though, like, in my mind, I already want to change it. Like, I hate reading, right? I hear this. So then I want to change it to, I don't like reading because, or I want to soften it, or I want to, but you can't, right? You have to write down exactly what they say and then talk about it. And what is it about it? Kind of explore it when it's not an emotional, high sensitive mark. and then help them restate it. So was there an example this week with a student or your own kid?
Definitely. With just building that trust, sometimes I think as parents we are constantly trying to build that trust so that our kids will say things like I hate reading, and that we'll hear it and then revisit it, right? Because we don't want them to just shut down and not feel like they can come to us. So if your child is coming to you and being honest about how they feel, then give yourself a pat on the back. Don't feel like, oh my gosh, how do I change them? Just be like, okay, this is the situation. How do we embrace it? And how do I help them grow in it? And yeah, always my two kids are so drastically different. But this week has been really, really good as a mom and educator, because I feel like my perspective has changed as far as intentionality. So I'm intentionally giving them that attention that they need when we're in those learning moments. So I find that they feel less stressed when I'm calm and I come to the table calm, my train, but also being open with them. My kids always ask me, how are you doing today, Mom? How was your day? Or how are your clients? And sometimes I say, oh man, today was a little rough, or I'm feeling like this, or I'm a little tired, because we're trying to model these things. It's good to be open and honest and identify how we're feeling, because then when we ask them and all they know how to say is good, we can't really help them, right? So it's okay, how are you feeling? Being honest in that, and then being really intentional with how I'm coming. Because I feel like, anyway, for me, my biggest problem is, how do my emotions affect my surroundings? And I talk about that with my clients all the time. We have this internal fire and we don't want it to consume everyone around us. We want to control it so that it's bright and shiny and awesome, but it's not taking over.
Right. Okay, so I want to share a mom-to-mom moment. So this is the part in our live where we're going to wrap up here in a minute, but just from mom to mom. And so this is going to be our format. And this week, what happened with a boy that's very dear to my heart was that we were staying up a little bit later watching a family movie. It was Sunday, it was the weekend, but still, Monday's coming. And usually when we watch a family movie, before the movie's over, I pause it and I have them go brush their teeth and get all ready for bed, so that when the movie's over, we can just kind of be couch potatoes for a minute and then, cruise and go to bed. But this night I forgot. And so the movie was over and it was time for them to brush their teeth and nobody was moving. And I was like, all right, it's time to go, go to sleep. And again, nobody moving. So I say, all right, well, first kid who brushes their teeth for 2 minutes gets to sleep with the dog. And he just looked at me and he was like, I hate you. I was like, you hate me because I'm asking you to brush your teeth, but this is that. We don't talk that way to each other in our family. And so I was just like, okay, now this is totally not cool. And he was really angry. And it took me a day of counseling with my auntie and expert teacher for her to process with me. It wasn't that he hated me. He hated that I started this game that I probably knew he couldn't do. He's not a fast transitioner, and I'm not either. I have a hard time with that too, so I can totally relate. And it wasn't fair that his older sister could just hop up and go brush her teeth and then get to sleep with the dog because they love snuggling with him. And so when I looked at it that way, then it made so much more sense to me, but then not really accepting that behavior or acceptable words in our house and our family. And to still give the boundaries and the guidelines and the revisiting it, but to say, okay, you're right, I shouldn't have set up that game. And it was, pretty much my bad for not, getting you to brush your teeth earlier and stuff too. And then two, though, recognizing that I'm only human and it would be really great if my kids would brush their teeth anyway, right? I didn't have to all the time. So this is just something that, when I look back on it, it seems simple, maybe, and trivial, but really in the moment of it when my my family was so angry and was saying, I hate you. And he really meant it, and what he meant was, I hate you for setting up that game. That is hard for me and I'm not going to win it. And I'm not going to be able to sleep with the dog and stuff like that. So then we talked about it and then we said, okay, what else can you say? Or how can we set this differently? But what else can you say is a big one, because there are some things that if you say them, it's not really fixable. Like if you walk into work and you're like, you go off on people, then you're fired. And they're not going to be like, oh, well, it's just because of me and I set up that. There are some like boundaries with your emotions and how you react in your behaviors that we really do want to help teach kids this. We call it social emotional intelligence and, the awareness of social interactions, which I think right now with all the COVID and all of the lack of social situations and people that we can reflect as parents and really help them to figure it out more now. So I hope that this helped. The last part of our little live is to address any questions that we have posted. Allie, do you see any questions?
I don't have it pulled up, but I do have a game that I started playing with my kids and my clients, and I love it. It's called Mindfulness Matters, and the ages are from 9 to 18 or 2 to 4, and there's directions for collaborative play and also competitive play. And basically it's the first one to spell mindfulness, but you don't know what cards you have. And there's a letter on one side and there's these really, really thought-provoking, awesome questions that all the young people in my life have been working through. And I would encourage you guys to elicit some of those resources. I know Kristen always puts awesome books up on the website and on the blog, and we'll tag this one too. So we hope I hope that helps, and maybe something fun to just create awareness.
Oh, I love it. When do you do it during your day?
It's kind of fun to do like when you're sitting, you kind of need like a table to do it, and you don't want it to be, or at least not my kids, like first thing in the morning. I feel like that's kind of our like be quiet, slow down time. But yeah, anytime. I mean, and all of my clients have loved it. Every single one of them has just really engaged in it and enjoyed it. And it's fun because you both answer questions. So they ask you questions and then you both get to decide, ooh, did we get that one? Did we answer that right? Did we not? It just is a really good way to have meaningful conversations and to get them thinking about some of these bigger things that, like, what do you hate? One of the questions is like, think about a class that you hate. Why do you hate it? Okay. And then they list all the things that they hate. And then what did you notice about the list that you made, or like about some of the things? And a lot of times it's like, oh, I noticed there's actually positive things in this thing that I hate.
Yeah.
And so
that's so cool. Awesome.
It's super powerful for them to kind of have these aha moments. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm totally going to get it. I can't wait to try it. I'm so sick of we have family dinner night almost every night together. And I'm so sick of us talking about politics or like current worries. So this is going to be great. I can't wait. Okay. So and
then there's another, oops, sorry. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
You go. There's another
book. There's another book that we have on our table for dinner time talk, and it's all these super silly. Some of them are not kid appropriate. So like we got it at a thrift store, and so I don't let my kids like read it. I'm like the controller of the what if book, but I go through and we pick questions, and it's fun too.
Great. Awesome. We've been playing one in our house, that would you rather.
Ooh, I like that.
And it's made for kids and for family conversation. And like, would you rather lose your sense of taste or lose your sense of smell for the day? Or would you rather, like fly to the moon or swim across the ocean, like underwater, So it's just like, yeah, cool little fun, creative, almost like imaginary, but just, really fun little, and they're super short. And so then each person around the area, the room, the table, or whatever can answer and talk about it, elaborate on it. So that's super fun. Cool. And it is about developing that trust. Okay. So the whole thing about all this emotion things is that I felt like when I was a school teacher in the school system, that because I didn't feel like I could address their emotional states and their fears and anxieties, the kids felt like I didn't care about them.
Right.
They really did. And they were like, oh, she just wants us to do these math problems and understand negative integers and know how to graph a parabola. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I'm dedicating my life as a teacher because I believe so much in you being our future. And I want you to, have every opportunity and be love and happiness and all this kind of stuff. So that was such a mind opener. And so that's why now when we do what we do, and we want to encourage all of you to do it too. And just know, we're all human and we're all just figuring this out one step at a time. But right now, the anxiety, the overwhelm, the fear, the sadness, the anger, these are real things. And I think that showing and encouraging them to be persistent with their learning and trying and failing, building up their confidence, like these things, for me and Allie and my team, they take priority over any academic objective. These are really way more important, that they feel like we care about them, we love them, and we can, help them as we learn too, to go through these emotions. So that was one of my questions from a parent was, can you teach me how to be patient? What are some ways that you are more patient? Lately for me, Allie, I'll let you think about it for a second and then you can answer the question. Lately for me, the word is surrender. And it keeps coming up. And when I have a little student, I am not. And then, you know what? Me as a teacher, I'm done. It is all about then I can bring the horse to the water, but can't make him drink, right? It becomes, how can I help them? And then, you know what? We need to go back into that social discussion and talking about why are they feeling this way and what's going on. And a lot of times, what Ellie and I just talked about today is with being their own self-worth critic, or they feel like when they do it, it's not good enough. And I get like these scribbles and I get like this, I'm not going to do it because it doesn't look like the way I want it to look in my mind is this beautiful essay or this really pretty drawing. And then when it comes out, my fine motor skills being a 7-year-old isn't what I want it to look like. So I'm just going to not do it. I'm going to hate it. So, so surrender. Okay. So that's the word over and over again. And, however it is that we need to do that. Sometimes I pray, sometimes I just go back to the breathing. I take a deep breath and I recognize the situation. Sometimes, especially if it's my own kids, I need to have a timeout. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go for a little walk around the block, or I'm going to, go for a little walk around the block, or just take a pet break. Like our pets are so helpful with these emotional states. I'm going to pick up the cat or, play tug of war with a dog and his rope. So how are some ways that you, in the moment when you're like, I really need to deal with patience for myself right now, how do you do it? Do you have any tips?
Yeah, I do, because I feel like this is something I definitely struggle with personally, is like I'm such a go person with my agenda that like sometimes it can be overwhelming when I'm not as productive as I think I should be. And I think a lot of it, like in my homeschool journey and with my kids, has been like relinquishing the social expectation, the school's expectations for my kid, and accepting that it's okay that they are who they are and where they're exactly. Like, because that puts a lot of pressure on us as parents. Like, why isn't my kid doing this? And why comparison? It's like all of that adds to this stress, and maybe the reason that you're feeling pressure.
Absolutely.
And impatience, because you're trying to get it to them, trying to present this information in a way that they can grasp it. And so I would just encourage you to let go of all of those pressures and exterior, kind of comparisons, and just accept that you're on this journey with your child, and also accept that like the bond that you have and the emotional connection that you're building is way more important than any small academic goal right now. Like, we obviously are educators, so academics are really important to us, but we can see that as students build those emotional connections, that trust, that their academics grow exponentially. So we were meeting with a client earlier, and I said this exact thing to the mom. I just said, I'm so grateful that we have this space to focus on building her trust and building her self-esteem and building resilience in her, because she's going to be like, it's going to be like flooring it, you know, like we've been pushing the car up the hill and all of a sudden the motor is going to start and she's going to fly forward, and we're going to get to watch that. So I would just really encourage you to accept where you're at, and don't let people put pressure on you to be someone different, or for the child to be someone different. Also, something super, super tangible, you can squeeze your fists. So this is actually a proven method psychologically. This is a method that a lot of psychologists, counselors, social workers use. So you tense your fists. You try to kind of like imagine tensing your whole body, right? And then you let go. And as you let go, it's like a physical response. So you're physically tensing your body, your whole body, every muscle in your body, you're imagining, and then you're physically letting it all go.
Your legs, your chest, your stomach. Yeah, I do that at night. Thank you for reminding us of that. I do that at night sometimes with my son when he can't sleep. He's really restless. He's like a wiggle worm in the bed. I'm like, okay, but we do it one body part at a time. I'm like, do your toes, do your feet, and then do your calves, do your thighs, do your stomach. And I like touch his stomach, and I touch my stomach when we get hard, you know. So that is really, really good, because that's how we feel these emotions, is in our body. So, and then it's like letting it out. It's like really, causing it. So good. Okay, so the 3 tips for how to become more patient, these are the words that came to me as Allie and I were talking. Number 1, surrender. Number 2, trust. Number 3, believe. So just what Allie just said, like we're pushing this student up the hill, and we're just like trying to jumpstart her, and it's a lot about emotions and give and take, and we're not even really there like academically, where we're like bam crushing stuff out, and then the motor's going to start. So we trust, right? I said this too to one of my clients this week. I'm like, trust the curriculum. Like we have taught this so many times. We've seen this so many times. A lot of times this one particular curriculum feels like you're not getting anywhere. If you are, the gains are so small. And then boom, like month 9 will hit and you skip like 4 levels or something. And I've seen this happen again and again and again with this particular curriculum. And it has to do with the brain, the child's brain developmental level and the other fundamental things that are happening in that curriculum. But trust. Okay, so just trust. And number 3, the third one is believe. So believe and see it visually, where, this child that we're talking about, she's going to soar, right? But they all are. They all are. So see in their own essence and in their own bliss and their own passions, see them soaring. All right, because if we see them all, in the moment of this fear and this stuckness, then that's what our intention is, our projection. So this is so beautiful. This just all spontaneously came up. That's why we do these lives. And that's why Allie and I are here, because we're doing these personally with our company and just talking. I'm like, Allie, these are so rich. Like we could be helping so many parents. And so we have made a lot of time and effort to try to put these together, and are still learning the whole technology part of it and learning how to be on screen and learning how to be vulnerable to you all. I'm not even naturally an extrovert. So this is, I hope that it serves you and it's helping our youth. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming on today, and look forward to our blog about this and our newsletter. We're going to do a follow-up, same topic, but it is going to be written for you, and we're going to have the quotes in there of these steps, and also the links for your resources of these mindfulness games and would you rather, just little tip and fun things that we're doing right now, and hope that we build our community with you all. So aloha, and thank you so much for joining us. The teacher is not a teacher without her students. And, again, here, I feel like it's from moms to moms, and of course, dads too. We love you. We love you all, parents, and anyone is welcome. Even some of our kids like to watch these. They're like, oh, there they are out there.
All right. Thanks, guys, so much for coming. And yeah, we just appreciate that we have this space to be honest and vulnerable with you. And we would encourage you to do the same because we're in the thick of it. We have young kids and we have lots of young clients. And so we're just really here to hopefully shed some light on some topics and be an encouragement. And we know how helpful our journey has been to one another. And so we're just kind of hoping to give back to this community in that same capacity. So thanks so much for coming. And we hope to see you in a couple weeks again.
April 2nd. April 2nd. And we'll post the link and we'll share it with all of you too. And you guys can share that around and post it too. All right, April 2nd and then Friday morning. We'll see you guys. Aloha.
Aloha.